Good afternoon, everyone. We just had the a launch press conference for Fabio Wardley, Joseph Parker. Sort of as expected, a kind of classy affair, no bad mouthing, no shit talking, no jive talk, as they call it. Fabio sort of said people keep bringing up the Justice Hooney win. And saying he was very lucky, and he said, all that will be recorded in the record books is a W by his name, which is true. And he said that's all that counts. And it is kind of all that counts if we're looking at it in terms of results. But both of these guys recently have had, the result doesn't tell the whole story, because Fabio had a war with Fraser Clarke the first time, was kind of lucky to get out of that. Had Fraser been a bigger puncher, probably would have been a different story, and the same with Justice Hooney. So be it with Joseph Parker as well. The win over Deontay Wilder, all while it being great on paper, it was a Wilder that didn't throw up, didn't chop, didn't throw any punches. And a lot was made of Andy Lee's tactics, superb tactics to negate and sort of neutralise the threat of Deontay Wilder. There was no threat of Deontay Wilder. So that win sort of, the result. And Joseph Parker still couldn't put him away. Then we had the Bacoli fight, and although he dispatched a massively out of shape Bacoli, coming in at the last minute for a big bag, although he did get rid of Bacoli again, he did get caught by Bacoli, and he was sort of blowing a bit after that, coming in as he is big Joseph Parker now, bigger than I would have him for my liking, but who am I? Just my opinion. As you know, I'm big fans of both of these guys. I've been Team Wardley for a long time, big Fabio Wardley fan. Big Joseph Parker fan. Probably two of my most likable guys at heavyweight. But leaving that aside, leaving my admiration of these two aside, objectively, I think Joseph Parker has looked fragile of late. For me, he's been rocked and hurt a few times. And Fabio Wardley, really, Fabio has just been as good as expected to be of a man with his short experience. As Dave Allen said when he boxed Johnny Fisher the second time, you can't be any good. You just haven't been in the game long enough. You've had enough fights. And that's kind of the fact with Fabio Wardley. There was a guy in the comments once who put Fabio Wardley's a bum. And me and the guys on a WhatsApp group, Joe Stunner and Bob from Canada's Boxing, I was talking about what pathetic comment that is, that he's a bum. No, he's technically limited because he's a baby. In boxing terms, professional boxing terms, for the heights that he's at, he really shouldn't be there. Shouldn't have got to those heights. He hasn't been around long enough, hasn't learned the game enough, hasn't got enough miles on the clock to be a technically sound fighter. So the fact that he's got where he is on sheer guts, hard work, a fantastic chin, spite, and a napalm punch is all credit to him. Bum, you aren't, Fabio. And as I said, I'm a big Fabio fan, I'm a big Joseph Parker fan, but if you look at the recent results for both of them over the last few years, they don't tell the whole story. But we're not giving a prediction on that. They were here to talk about Canelo Crawford. A lot being made of the weight, and when this fight was first announced, a lot of people not being interested, saying this was a bit of a joke, it was a gimmick fight, for the casuals maybe. But I've watched a lot of Crawford sort of in the gym, as much footage as you can get hold of. And if you look at Terence Crawford in between fights, Terence Crawford probably walks around 180s, maybe high 180s. He's a big dude, and I've said this on our WhatsApp group. Terence Crawford sheds a fuck ton of weight when it gets to fight time. So this won't really be a fight that comes down to size, really. Yes, in terms of the divisions, Crawford is going up 2 weights, but in terms of just realistic size, he's not going up in weight. He's just not coming down as far in weight. He's not shedding so much because, as I said before, he shifts a fucking shit ton of weight leading up to fights. He boxes really on the brink of diminishing returns with getting down to welterweight. So, will size be an issue? Possibly, but not the bigger issue that a lot of people make it out to be, I don't believe. I look at this fight a lot in the way that I looked at the return fight between Bivol and Beterbiev once we'd seen that Beterbiev, and again, I love both of those guys. If you go back and watch my reviews of both of them fights, you'll just see how much appreciation I have for both of those guys. Both of those guys are the very elite tier of this game. But it became evident to me in my prediction for the second fight, I picked a Bivol win. And I picked a Bivol win because after seeing the first fight, I just thought Bivol had way more tools to rely on than Beterbiev did. Beterbiev having less tools, but the tools he did have are absolutely sublime. The way he uses his walk forward pressure, the way that he applies pressure, even when he's not throwing punches, the way that he can almost throw arm shots at times, and that will be enough to get rid of guys. Beterbiev is amazing. Like, underrated footwork, underrated boxing ability. But in terms of sheer tools, more limited than Bivol, and that's why I picked Bivol to win, because he had more options. I kind of look at this fight the same way. Canelo Alvarez in recent years has really just been a bit of a plodding, walk-forward fighter, relying on upper body movement, slow feet. He's never had the quickest feet, but his feet have slowed a lot more in recent years. He uses upper body movement and a good defense to slip punches and roll punches and come underneath punches. And he does it really well. You know, you may say, why use the feet so much when you're that good with an upper body defense that Canelo is? But he has been very one-dimensional. It's kind of like a bit of a, almost an insult to say that about a fighter of Canelo's standing, but he has become one-dimensional. Saying that, the fighters he's fought haven't offered a lot and haven't offered a lot of jeopardy, haven't offered a lot of fear for Canelo. He hasn't had to do much else. Guys have just come to survive, just turned up for a paycheck, and a victory for them was just doing 12 rounds. A lot is not being made of the fact that Terence Crawford is great at southpaw, and Canelo struggled with southpaws. You know, Billy Joe Saunders, who were the other the southpaws he fought? But he hasn't looked great against southpaws. And the fact that Crawford can switch and box southpaw when he wants at will is going to be a big thing. I think Crawford's got more tools. I think he's got more assets to rely on. I don't expect Crawford to be able to get a stoppage against Canelo. Regardless of where Canelo's at in his career at this point, I still think Canelo's possibly got the best chin in world boxing. And Crawford's power is probably not going to be as effective at this weight, even though, like I said, that the weight and size I don't think is going to be as much of a factor as a lot of people are saying it is. Crawford's a big dude anyway. But I don't expect a stoppage for Crawford. Canelo really has to, and Crawford can box on the back foot, but he can't get into a rhythm of where Crawford is. And although I liken this to Bivol Beterbiev, I don't think Crawford will be as back foot as what Bivol did. And when I say Bivol was back foot, I don't mean that disparagingly. Bivol is, I'd go as far as to say Bivol is possibly one of technically the best fighters around. Technically, I would say Bivol is probably pound for pound up there in just sheer terms of technical ability, pure boxing ability. So when I say Bivol was on the back foot, he wasn't running, never running, don't get it twisted. But on the back foot and laterally, Bivol is superb. I don't expect Crawford to be going as backwards as often as Bivol was, but I do expect him to be using his boxing ability. Canelo cannot settle into a rhythm of low output where Crawford is stealing rounds with output, because I don't think Canelo will be able to catch that later on. I think he's going to have to start with a bigger output, pushing Crawford more backwards and not letting Crawford. He's got to put Crawford off with the heavy punches, the big heavy left hook. He's got to really make them tell early, because otherwise into a rhythm and start to box cleverly from both stances and just rack up rounds, and probably rack up so many rounds that Canelo can't catch them. In short, other than Canelo having success with those heavy bludgeoning punches, because I've no doubt Canelo probably has enough power to stop Crawford, do situations allow that, but I don't think Crawford will allow that. I think Crawford is so clever. Saying that, there is the massive inactivity for Crawford and the massive activity of Canelo. They will play a big part. We talk about this a lot. We talk about how inactivity can be the killer for fighters. And Crawford hasn't fought a lot. He hasn't had that many fights in the last 4 years. He just hasn't, compared to Canelo, who went on that run of cleaning up super middle, individually taking titles off the champions within inside 12 months. Canelo's been far more active. He lives for the sport. He still seems to have the hunger. Maybe Crawford will bring out the Canelo that we thought was gone. Maybe the Canelo that we see now, he's just down to the fact that opponents don't do anything for him. They don't. I don't really hold the Bivol loss against Canelo. As I said, I think Bivol is arguably, technically, the best fighter out there today. And he was that much bigger and had all the attributes to beat a kind of slow-footed Canelo. Crawford is different to Bivol, but I think Crawford has more tools. And unless Canelo can make those heavy punches tell early to deter Crawford, maybe hurt Crawford out early. Crawford, I wouldn't say he struggled against Madrimov. I don't think he was that bad as a lot of people say he was against Madrimov. Madrimov is awkward. He's a little bit negative at times recently, but he is still technically a problem. I just, if I have to lean, unless Canelo can make a dent early, unless Canelo can make his power tell early, I do think Crawford has got more tools, and I do edge towards Crawford. It wouldn't be surprised to me whoever won, really, depending on how this fight plays out. I think after 3 rounds, we'll kind of see the pattern of this fight and how this fight plays out. But if I had to pick, I am going to go with Crawford. I'm going to go with Crawford on the fact that, for me, other than the inactivity, and other than the fact that Crawford getting old overnight, I don't think Canelo's really had to exert himself that much recently. So I don't think, although there is the far more fights, I don't know if a lot of these are aging fights, because he boxes well within himself in what looks like second gear a lot. I just think Crawford may have too many tools, and I just think Canelo may have slipped into this pattern of, being slow-footed, being quite a walk-forward, one-dimensional type fighter, although being that with great upper body movement and a granite chin and real brute force. I just edge towards Crawford. I just edge towards Crawford's variety. Is a lot of people have said Crawford has got a better boxing IQ than Canelo. I don't think that's particularly true. I think they're both very different and both employ their boxing IQ in different ways. But something just for me suggests Crawford, and something just for me, I just think Crawford may have too much. Not too much in the way of power. I don't in a million years expect him to stop Canelo. Not by a knockout anyway. But I just think Crawford's got more. I think he's got more tools, more to rely on. And for that reason, I'm going 60-40 with Crawford. I'll see you all soon.